The whole chapter has the earmarks of an eyewitness account or eyewitness accounts. So just give you three that you may have heard of, or to one level or another. I think it's worth saying because every time I say it, every time I see it written down, I realize that even the most skeptical people have to give it credence. Verses 1 to 12, the initial witnesses to the empty tomb are women. You've heard this before. Women in that day and time had low status. That meant that their testimony was not admissible evidence in court, neither in Roman jurisprudence or in Jewish jurisprudence. And therefore, if you're making up a story, if you're making up a legend about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, you would never put women in there as the first eyewitnesses. It would have done nothing but create a lack of, it would undermine the plausibility of the account with any of the hearers or the readers of the time. And therefore, the only reason that Luke could have possibly put women in as the first eyewitnesses is if they really were the eyewitnesses. There's no other motivation he would have had to put them in there. Another thing is Richard Bauckham's great book, Jesus and the Eyewitnesses. He was Dr. Fotter to Stephen who was here yesterday, a friend of Don Carson. Bauckham points out that these narratives, including Luke 24, have all the marks not of vision literature, not of legend, but of eyewitness. He says you can see the difference between an account that's given from the vantage point of an individual in the actual scene, as opposed to most legends are written from the viewpoint of an omniscient narrator. An omniscient narrator sort of sees the whole and tells you everything that's happening. But he says if you read this very carefully, these accounts are from the point of view, the limited point of view of eyewitnesses, people inside. He also points out the fact, what are all these names for? Cleopas. Why is only Cleopas named and not the other disciple? Why the names of the women, Joanna and Mary, the mother of James, why are they being so careful? And he says in ancient times, very often when you were giving a historical account based on eyewitness testimony, these were like footnotes. When you put the names of people in there, they were like footnotes. It was like your way of saying, if you want to check out what I'm telling you, go talk to these people. In some cases, Bauckham points out, like for example, in the book of Mark, there's a place where it talks about Simon of Cyrene, who helped Jesus carry his cross on the way to Calvary. And Mark says, Simon of Cyrene, the father of Rufus and Alexander. Now, Rufus and Alexander don't even come into the story. What in the world are their names doing in there? And the answer, of course, of Bauckham is it was really a way of saying these are eyewitness accounts. These names are in here because we got a lot of the information from these folks. There's evidence, according to Bauckham, that Cleopas was probably a very well-known eyewitness in the early church for many, many decades. And he was a source of a lot of this information.